part 2 of the solar install.
Hi, I'm Tracy.
And I'm Christian.
And we are Tumbleweed RV Life.
We decided to live our dreams now and today and not wait till tomorrow or someday. We do the research on the latest RV products and how-tos and bring you the best we find scouring the internet.
If you're new to our channel, hit that red subscribe button down below, and while you're at it, hit the bell right next to it for future notifications on all our videos. What are we doing today, Papa?
We're doing part 2 of the solar installation. We'll see how much we can get done. The plan is to finish wiring the panels on top, find where the pre-wired solar from the factory terminates inside the garage in the underbelly, which will be fun because it's pretty tight down there.
Yeah.
And then
it's a good thing you're skinny.
And I'm hoping to at least get the 12 volt done, so the charge controller all the way to the front battery, and then the real fun begins, because we have to pull out the existing lead acid batteries, and that means there's no more power to the RV. So we're going to have to move out for, I think, a week or two.
Yeah.
While I get that done.
Yeah.
Or I should say, while we get that done, because I do expect some assistance.
Yeah, I'll stand there.
Yeah. She'll hold the camera.
I'll hold the camera.
So let's go have some, hopefully, something that will be fun today, installing the solar. But first, coffee. I've started the solar install on the roof. So I put in the tilting kits for the panels, give me great access to the wiring underneath the panels. Everything is done up here. So let me show you what I did. Those two are in series. So the negative to the positive, over here the negative to the positive. That leaves two negatives here and two positives here. The two positives come up here and join up together and are in parallel over here, and the two negatives come up here and combine here, and from the combiner, the Y connector, it goes into the box here that was pre-wired with the Eagle Cap 1200. Everything is tied up underneath. I'm just going to leave it loose for now. I'm going to get some clips like this type of clip that I got with the cell booster. I'd rather not put holes or put anything permanent. I just clean it and clip them, press down the tape, and it just stays there with tape. You can always take them off later. So I'm happy the way this turned out. I did test two panels going into the basement, and I found voltage in the basement, and I actually started putting in the charge controller.
What's it like being in the hole, Christian?
I'm getting used to it, actually. There's a lot more room in here than I thought. I was going to put the charge controller up at the front, but this is where the pre-wired solar from the factory ended, so this was a good place to put the charge controller. I've got good thick gauge wire to go all the way to the front. It's not very long, it's only like a 6 feet run. So I got the charge controller wired and anchored to the wall. Now I'm just anchoring the fuses, the breakers. I got the existing batteries out. Pretty shoddy work. Look at this crimp connection right there. That is terrible, terrible. Good thing I'm taking these out. Look at that. Look at the terrible crimp. And all these crimps are all taped up, so it tells me that they were pretty bad too. So it doesn't surprise me. You know, they say RV craftsmanship is not always the best. All right, so from the battery, we have the negative, which goes to the shunt to the negative bus. On the positive side, we have the battery plus the battery temperature sensor, which goes to the shunt, and then the shut-off switch, fuse, and positive bus. So on the shunt, we have the communication port and the power and sensor for the battery temperature, which then goes to the battery monitor. The 12 volt coming out of the inverter, which comes to the bus. The next two are the RV main power to the main panel inside and the main disconnect in the back. The last two are the PV array, so that's coming from the charge controller, which is midship in the back there. Coming from the transfer switch on the AC in, and then AC out, which goes back into the panel on the inside. This is the main breaker coming in, and you can see the yellow sleeve in there, wire. That's the one that was coming from the transfer switch. The tie-ins are done in the main panel. That yellow one is the one that came in back here. The new cable, which is now coming from the inverter, is coming into the panel over here, and it's tied to the master 30 amp breaker. I disconnected the converter from here and tucked all the wires back inside the converter. That gives me a free breaker right here. This breaker is going to be wired to a new receptacle that's going underneath in the back for a heater. In case we get cold weather and we're connected to shore power, we'll be able to run a small heater in the basement to keep the tanks warm and not chew up a whole bunch of propane. Well, panel's back on. It was pretty tough to try to find a place that I could fish and mount. You gotta have access to the back. I was gonna put it on the back wall, but the fish would have been not very fun, but everything's here. So this is the inverter, this is the battery monitor, and this is the charge controller. A nice little bracket, really easy to install. And here is the new receptacle I installed by using the breaker that was freed up because we didn't need the converter anymore. So all cleaned up back here. I just need to put the cover faceplate on the charge controller. Doing the finishing for the battery, I put some D-hooks on both sides, and then this was an adjustable bungee that went all the way around. And I was able to just get the right tension on it. The battery is not going anywhere. What I did is I put a piece of plywood down first, then some foam board, and then another piece of plywood, and sandwiched that together just to give it a little bit of shock absorbent properties. Okay, so the inverter charger is now in. I put some little blocks here to give it some air circulation as recommended. There's a piece of also foam board at the end to stop it from hitting the wall, so there's some cushion here. And I taped up all the wires here, so all the batteries all hooked up again. The battery management system's hooked up. I am going to turn on the main switch. These were the foam that was at the top and bottom of the inverter in the box. It happens to wedge nicely in here, nice and tight in there. Time to re-energize the system. We're gonna throw the solar back on. Turn on the main house battery. Turn on the inverter, and it's in inverter mode because we're not plugged into shore right now. It's giving us 110. Well, the 12 volt system's on. 110 AC. Here's the microwave. And we're running off the battery and inverter right now. Let's have a look at the color control. So it's showing no shore power. The battery is feeding the inverter, which is feeding the AC load and feeding the DC load. And solar right now, it's kind of cloudy. It's producing 130-40 watts. But our consumption is way more than that. Here's the WinGuard Connect, which is tied to the Wi-Fi in the house right now. Now we'll just get the color control to pick up Tristan on the Wi-Fi, and then everything will be up and running.